Let's go, folks. Time for the Gibby Show.
How you doing, baseball fans? And welcome to the first of 4 special editions that will run through the month of December of the Gibby Show, presented by Miller Lite, the official beer of Major League Baseball and the Gibby Show. I'm John Arezzi, and as we all know, my podcast partner, the baseball lifer himself, John Gibbons, was officially hired by the New York Mets to be their bench coach under new Mets manager Carlos Mendoza. Gibby is enjoying a little well-deserved time off. For the next 4 weeks, we will be here covering the breaking news about the Blue Jays. We'll be bringing on some baseball insiders as our special leadoff guest. And on this show, we bring on someone who's been there covering it all at the baseball winter meetings right here in Nashville, Tennessee. From the MLB Network, we'll be bringing on Steve Phillips. We also have the first of 4 Best of Gabbing with Gibby segments brought to you by Tim Hortons, with today's show highlighting Gibby's managerial style and his career in the dugout. And inspired by our friends at Miller Lite, we will toast someone special in baseball. The baseball winter meetings are going on right now in Nashville, Tennessee. I've attended the last couple of days. Today's special leadoff guest has been a very busy man. I've seen him everywhere, TV, listened to him on radio. He's covering the meetings for the MLB Network as one of the lead analysts. In addition, hosting the daily morning show, The Leadoff Spot, on the MLB Radio Network, heard on Sirius XM. He's the former general manager of the New York Mets as well. Assembled a team that made it to the World Series in 2000. It's a pleasure to bring on Steve Phillips. Steve, how you doing? Busiest man busiest man in Nashville.
It certainly has been a busy day. There's no question about that, but great to be with you again.
Yeah, it's our pleasure to have you here. And it's been a crazy baseball winter meetings. This is not your first trip to the winter meetings. I'm sure you've gone to dozens and dozens, but this one has been dominated so far by what has not happened. And what has not happened is Shohei Ohtani and where he's going to land as perhaps the most high-profile free agent in the history of Major League Baseball. And the Toronto Blue Jays have emerged as one of the favorites to land Ohtani. What is the latest that you've heard on Ohtani and the Jays?
So my sense of this is right now that it's down to the Dodgers and Blue Jays. The Giants are on the outskirts of it a little bit. We know the Angels are still in a little bit. The Cubs haven't been told they're out, but they feel like they're out, which is enough of an indication for me. And so it does feel like it's down. And again, maybe it can change. Maybe there's smoke signals being sent up that are different, but it feels like it's Dodgers and Blue Jays. And I got to say, I believe the Blue Jays are the favorites in this. And I thought all along he was going to go to the Dodgers. But the more I've looked at this, Ohtani didn't take the brand when he first came over. He took the Angels over the Dodgers, right? And so he doesn't follow what you might think is the convention or the norm or the expectation. The Angels were a bit of a surprise for all of us that he chose to go there. And now you start to look at it and think, okay, his brand has grown so big right now that the idea of going to be a Dodger would be sharing the brand platform with a team. He goes to Toronto. He gets all of Canada. He gets all of the United States, and he has all of Japan as part of the international brand that he's building, a chance to win on a regular basis with the roster they have. Every indication I have from talking to sources, they'd be able to afford Bichette, Guerrero, and Ohtani moving forward with this pitching staff they have. They would go out there, try to compete year in and year out. And then you think about from the club's perspective, ownership is a communications company. In LA, it's an investment company. Now, so you can say, well, you can sell broadcast rights, you can sell sponsorships and ads and all of that. You're going to make a lot of money because of Ohtani. That's true. They can do that in LA. They can do that in Toronto. But the Rogers Corporation is a communications company with the idea of expanding business in Asia. Their core business at an ownership level can make money outside of baseball from the relationship with Ohtani in baseball. And I think that would allow them to spend more, to go the extra mile, to be able to try to land him. And so I do think that because he doesn't make the conventional decision, and you don't fly across the country from California to Dunedin just to show or try to keep a team in and as a smokescreen, there's legitimately interest right there. I think now listen, if he goes to the Dodgers, I'm not going to be shocked. But I give the Blue Jays an edge right now because of all of those reasons.
Yeah, if you want to speculate and want to put some odds on this, what would you guess would be the odds percentage that the Jays do get Ohtani?
I would give it better than 50%, not significantly, although you can create a storyline. Look, I can do the Dodgers storyline, comfort level, staying in Los Angeles, the brand of the Dodgers. He's going to connect his brand to the Dodgers brand. It'll exponentially grow him, make it that much more important. Chance to win year in and year out. The medical team that's been working on his elbow are all based in Los Angeles. So it'll be convenient for him to rebuild his core. He's got a foundation and group already set up in LA. So just going from Anaheim to Los Angeles is a comfort level for him to be able to produce and perform, and a chance for him to do it at the highest level of a prestigious organization. I can sell that case. It doesn't feel as much like Ohtani as the storyline for Toronto does. But so I give Toronto the edge, whether it's 55, 45, 60, 40. I give them an edge in this, but I won't be shocked, though. I would be shocked if he's a Giant. I would be shocked if he's an Angel or a Cub. And if he's an Angel, it would be the worst ending to a story since the end of Game of Thrones. Like, the end of Game of Thrones was so disappointing to me. If he goes back to the Angels and be like, wait, we got all excited and then it's this? Like, what? No way. And so that would be the worst ending for all of us, I think.
Yeah, it would be totally anticlimactic for sure. You spoke to Ross Atkins on your radio show yesterday, and to me, and I've seen the guy do many, many interviews in the past, he looked happy, he looked relaxed, he was smiling. He almost had a look like the cat who ate the canary. Tell us about the interview with Atkins, and was it a different dynamic than you talking to him previously, which you've done many times?
Yeah. So I will tell you that I what I find is when a general manager talks to another general manager who he's heard talk about the game and understand the game in a way that he does as an executive, it does disarm him a little bit. And he relaxes a little bit more, because I watched him later in the day with the local media, and I felt a little bit of the tension come back and all of it. So I think there's some part of just talking to another baseball person that he was a little bit looser. He probably was a little tired, and therefore his guard down a little bit. But I also think it's exciting when you're in on superstar players or big time trades. I've been there at the winter meetings. It's so exciting that it's hard to contain those emotions a little bit. And yet, when you feel like there's some criticism coming because you're not answering questions, you're not telling them, did you meet with them or did you not meet with them? You get a little defensive. It clams you up and tightens you up a little bit. It wasn't that way with him in the morning. So you're right. It was a freer sort of interview with him. And I did sense this. They're all in on this. There's a shift in ownership, and ownership involvement is a big part of the Ohtani pursuit. If they don't get Ohtani, their plan B was Soto. That was really clear out of the interview to me as well. Now, with news that Soto may be coming off the board in a trade with the Yankees and that may be getting close, the Jays are going to have to potentially pivot to plan C if they don't get Ohtani, which is probably Cody Bellinger or Jung-Hoo Lee, an outfielder from Korea that would probably be plan D in the mix. But they're all in right now on Ohtani. They're going to wait this one out.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty stark contrast seeing the comments from Dave Roberts, who said, yes, we met with him, and John Schneider, who had those scripted answers. And there's always been that speculation from Ohtani's camp that leaks mean that you're going to get a demerit or it could hurt your chances. Have you ever seen anything like this in your history, Steve, of what this gag order has meant to other teams? And wouldn't have made more sense if Ohtani said, these are the finalists? So at least all the media would have something to talk about and speculate about, other than, what a gag order is all about right now.
Here's the thing. We're going to see the biggest, most significant contract in the history of baseball ever signed, by far, like doubling it. I mean, we're getting to the exponential numbers right here. I'm not going to begrudge the biggest star in our game in the way that they're going through free agency. I mean, he doesn't want a spectacle. He's a bit of a mysterious guy. He's a bit of a private guy. I mean, he receives awards with a dog next to him or a cat next to him. I mean, there's no entourage, there's no family, there's no story. It's just him. And so I wasn't surprised that he wanted that. And I will tell you that I've been in negotiations for trades with a general manager who has said to me, listen, this can't leak out. If it leaks out before I can sell it to my owner, then it's going to kill any chance of a deal. And it leaked out. You know what it did? It killed the deal. There have been players, Brian Cashman, when he signed Mark Teixeira, it was a stealth move. Nobody saw it coming, under the radar. Then next thing you know, they're announcing it because nobody wants spectacles to be able to go through some of these things. So I'm okay with the way Ohtani's handled it.
Steve, I want to talk to you about the dynamics of putting together a deal like this. And when it comes to the GM presenting to the owners what the cost would be on a free agent deal. Talk to us, and I know you haven't been involved in any, and no one's ever been involved in a deal like this, but talk about maybe the biggest deal you did as a GM for the Mets. Talk us through the process on the executive level and how this all unfolds.
So, when you go through this, you've already been with ownership, and these big contracts are not baseball decisions. They're organizational decisions. Owners are absolutely involved in this because you're spending money that is astronomical, and the owner needs to sign off on it and approve it because, you can't. It's one thing you got to trade for a middle reliever or sign a guy for $4.5 million. The owner's going to be like, all right, you're talking about $500 million, about $500 million. That's a quarter of the value of a team like, the Blue Jays. They're probably a $2 billion team. You're talking about you're talking about $500 million. That's a quarter of the value of the franchise. So owners are involved in these sorts of things, and they have to be, because if they go wrong, you don't want to be out there by yourself on a limb as the general manager. Now, you probably would still lose your job over it if it doesn't go well, but owners need to be involved, and they can help the process, because when a player is buying in for this long of a contract, this is about the longevity, continuity, and consistency of an organization. Will the owner be there? What's the plan? How much are you willing to invest? How much are you into winning? Are you just looking to make money? Are you willing to invest in winning? If you're signing a guy for this kind of money, he's going to want to know if you have enough money to pay for the players around you. And so ownership's a big part of all of this. And at that point, it's a partnership. So I always like to keep my owners out of the baseball decisions. But when it comes to one like this, so when I signed Piazza, ownership absolutely involved in it, signing off on it, approving it, and making sure they were part of the entire process of that negotiation and pursuit of the player as well. For instance, Mets owner Steve Cohen flew over to Japan to visit with Yoshinobu Yamamoto because he wanted to make a statement that this is how serious we are about you. And when you get to the ownership level with a player, that makes a strong statement to a player that you're very important to that team.
Well, I mean, it really is going to be quite an interesting conclusion to the baseball winter meetings. We have just a couple more questions for you, Steve. Can you share with us anything that you might have learned in regard to the Blue Jays with us from the winter meetings?
Sure. Yeah. So I think that obviously the in on Ohtani, Soto's the plan B. Every indication that I understand is that Bellinger could potentially be plan C. Now, the challenge, the fear the Blue Jays have, they wait on Ohtani. Soto goes off the board to a non-Ohtani team, the Yankees. And then one of the teams that's in on Ohtani realizes we're not really in, the Giants. And so they go get Bellinger. And then you don't get plan A for some reason. He goes to the Dodgers. Plan B's off the board. Plan C's off the board. And it's like that Bugs Bunny cartoon where at the end, there's a scramble. And at the end, you're standing there with a very empty bag with nothing in it. And so, there's always that risk. The Jays have to stay all in on Ohtani. They're going to get a decision probably by the weekend. And if they lose out on Soto, it's not because they did anything wrong. It's because the Yankees manipulated the timing to force the Padres to make the deal before the Ohtani thing happened to take the Blue Jays out of it. It's a brilliant play by Brian Cashman. If for some reason the Giants make the move to pivot from Ohtani before he decides officially to go after Bellinger, it's a brilliant move by Farhan Zaidi to be able to get him off the board before the Blue Jays could get back in and compete. Because if you're willing to pay $500 million for Ohtani, you're willing to pay the price for Soto. You're willing to pay the price for Bellinger. But, this is the choice the Jays made, and it seems to be the right choice for their organization.
Yeah, once those dominoes fall, they start to fall quick. So it's like a chess game. It certainly is. You are listening to the Gibby Show, presented by our friends at Miller Lite. And we want to thank Miller Lite for their support all season right here on the Gibby Show. I'm sure Gibby celebrated by cracking open a Miller Lite when the official announcement was finally made by the New York Mets about his return. And I know he's probably enjoying a Miller Lite or two on his vacation right now. After all, anytime is Miller time, the light beer that tastes like a real beer. Miller Lite, the official sponsor of Major League Baseball, and right here on the Gibby Show.
Corner booths, sticky floors, weekdays that feel like weekends. You never forget the way some things taste. Miller Lite, great taste, 90 calories. Tastes like Miller time.
Before we let you go, Steve, we want to talk to you about the namesake for this show, Gibby himself, John Gibbons. He's back in the majors, being signed by the New York Mets as the bench coach for new manager Carlos Mendoza. Before commenting on the move by the Mets, tell us about your history with John Gibbons.
Oh, yeah. So Gibby was drafted in 1980 by the Mets. I was drafted in 1981. Now, he was a bonus baby first rounder. I always like to tease him. But a first round pick with Darryl Strawberry, Billy Beane, and Gibby, all three in the first round for the Mets that year. I was drafted in 1981, fifth round by the Mets. And so we were in instructional league together, would go to the ballpark together, became friends there. And then, he promoted, worked his way through the system. I played 7 years in the minor leagues, didn't make it to the major leagues. But when I got back into the front office, was able at some point to bring Gibby back in as a roving catching instructor, then a minor league coach and manager, and worked closely with him when I was running the Mets minor leagues at the time. And so we've got a long history together. So he's been a baseball friend for a long time, a personal friend for a long time. And obviously, we've got a great baseball history together, but a friendship. And I've been so proud of him, the run he's made as a major league manager, as a coach for teams at the major league level, and now this opportunity he's getting in New York.
Yeah, I met him in 1981 when I was an young executive for the New York Mets minor league team in Shelby, North Carolina, in the Sally League. And it was me and Gibby and JP Ricciardi sharing a little house there in that little town. But Gibby, I've known for such a long time, and I'm so happy for him, even though it means the end of this podcast at the end of the month. I told him that it was a dream for him, to get back where it all started with the New York Mets. And it's universally been a hire bringing Gibby back to where it all started from. And you had such an instrumental part of that phase of his career. And you give a guy a shot and, it leads to where it's led. 10 years in Toronto, back with the Mets. Give us your opinion on the hiring of Gibby by New York to be the bench coach.
Yeah, I think he's a great fit. I think it's the perfect fit, honestly. You got a rookie manager, and the noise gets really loud. Things get going really fast. And the one thing Gibby has the ability to do, slow it down. He just slows it down. Nothing's too stressful. He can bring everybody back a little bit, not put you to sleep, but just take some of the energy out of it, right? Just don't, it's all right. Everything's going to be okay. That's exactly what Carlos Mendoza, the manager for the Mets, needs right now. He is the perfect fit for him in that position right there. Having played there, he's got a sense, Gibby does, of what the New York market's like, and he's great with the media. He has that disarming humor and Southern charm that can kind of slow everybody down a little bit and take the energy and intensity and anxiety down a level. So I don't think they could have made a better pick and selection for Carlos Mendoza. I think it's a great move for Gibby and for the New York Mets.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And Steve Phillips, we really want to thank you for your time here today. We know how busy we are. We appreciate your insights, and have a great rest of the baseball winter meetings. Once again, thank you so much.
You bet. My pleasure. Anytime. You guys have great holidays for you and your family. All the best to you. Look forward to talking again soon.
All right. Take care. Now it's time for the first of 4 of the best Gabbing with Gibby segments, brought to you by Tim Hortons. And speaking of Tim's, Tim Hortons has some tasty beverages and baked goods on their menu for the holidays. Get this, everybody. Non-alcoholic Bailey's flavored Tim Hortons classics are now available, including Bailey's cream coffee, the Bailey's latte, Bailey's cold brew with Bailey's flavored infused foam, and the Bailey's ice cap. The ice cap is perfectly paired with the taste of Bailey's and a whipped topping. Tim also has put out a Bailey's flavored twist on one of its most popular donuts by introducing the non-alcoholic Bailey's Boston Cream Dream donut. It has a non-alcoholic Bailey's flavored cream filling and a sprinkling of chocolate curls. Also available this holiday season are the classics, the chocolate lava dream cookie, the chocolate hazelnut-filled muffin, and returning for Tim's for the holiday season are fan favorites, candy cane hot chocolate, candy cane white hot chocolate beverages. They're all rich, warm, sweet, and these deliciously festive hot chocolate offerings are perfect to enjoy on a cold winter day. Only at Tim Hortons.
Tim's new non-alcoholic Bailey's flavored holiday menu. Enjoy the classic taste of the holidays anytime with a creamy Bailey's flavored latte. Celebrate the season with the taste of the holidays with Tim's new non-alcoholic Bailey's flavored holiday menu.
On today's special Gabbing with Gibby, we will take a look back on Gibby the manager, his managerial style and career, and we're going to bring on some of our amazing guests and their stories about Gibby the skipper. Enjoy this best of Gibby the manager. Josh Donaldson.
One thing I'll say, everybody knew where you stood, right? You and I had our battles about things like, there's nothing wrong with that. And I tell everybody, you know what? One thing about Josh, you get a lot of players in this game. They're really good players, they're playing the game, what have you. Josh is in tune with everything. We'd go out to the mound, whether talk to the pitcher, make a pitching change, and you talk to baseball about strategy. And when the first time you got it, when you showed up and you did, I'm thinking, son of a bitch, shut up, under my breath going, hey, I'm the running of this team, right? I'm the manager. You know what? And anyway, and then we got a great story. And it was a huge, but that was the give and take. And finally I said, Josh knows what he's talking about. Maybe I ought to start listening a little more often. So I can remember, I can remember telling you, hey, Josh, when you're over at third base, if you think the pitcher, we need to make a pitcher change, just kind of look at me and give me a little sign. I was joking. I got too much pride to do that. But there was one game.
No, my favorite was you'd come up to the mound and I'd say, Gibby, what the hell are you bringing this guy in for? And you're like, I got a gut feeling, JD. I got a gut feeling.
I got an upset gut.
I say, are you sure you don't got gas? Or
well, you saw my appetite. But hey, what in the most?
Hey, a lot of times you were right. A lot of times it was right. And I remember you nailed it with Joe B. Genie that year. And I remember it was like the first week he kind of, had an outing where it went okay, then one that went really well. And he came out of the game one day when you're making the change and you're like, that kid's going to get some big outs for us this year. And he did. And, he
better. We got nobody else. He sure so better.
No, we had some guys back there.
Oh, yeah, I know that. Of course.
Yeah.
I'm messing around. Yeah. But there's one game I got to bring, one of my favorite stories. It was the biggest game of the year. One of the biggest games of my career as a manager, right? It's game 4 down in Texas. RA's pitching, right? So hey, that's the 5 that we dropped 2 to the Rangers in Toronto, but there was no panic in our guys. That's one thing about this, that team. You know what?
Yeah.
Confidence can be, right? So we ended up winning the game 3. Marco was unbelievable. Estrada.
Marco pitched a great game.
Oh, he was big clutch guy. So we go in that game 4. Dickey's pitching, and we get a nice little lead, and he's pitching pretty good. But
hold up. Nice little lead. Do you remember what the score was?
Was it 7-1 or 6-7-1 or 2 or something?
It was like 7-1 or something like that, or 8-1. Go ahead,
okay,
keep your story going.
But see,
that matters.
This was kind of on the verge when analytics was coming in. But see, I was an analytics dream before analytics. It was the third time through the lineup. But you know what? Nobody thought about it back then. See, and I get chastised for being anti-analytics. I was so far ahead of the game. But anyway,
you're so far ahead. I don't even know what they're thinking.
But well, beforehand, I see you guys. If you're not thinking about the whole team like I was, David, don't forget David Price offered, or he said, I'll be the left-hander because Brett Cecil got hurt and Loopy, his wife, was in the hospital. So he had to be there. So we had no left-hander, right? They got some pretty good, damn good left-handed hitters. So Dave Price comes to me and says, hey, listen, after his first game start, I'll pitch out of the bullpen. I said, perfect. Let's do it. So, that's how he made his name coming up with the Tampa that year.
Yep.
So the night before, when Estrada's pitching, he, we get him up in the pen, right? And Estrada gets out of the inning. So anyway, I see him the next day. Here's a guy that's thrown his 220 innings, like he's done for every year. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. He's going to make a mega fortune. I got to think of this guy too. So I said that Sunday morning, I said, listen, if I get you up today, you're in a game. There's no more dry humps, right? I can't do that to you. And he said, I appreciate that. So the Texas Rangers fans are on half asleep. And these guys had all hit Dickey really good, and we're going to leave. And I'm thinking, you know what?
No, they didn't.
I can't wait too long. Anyway, I did this. Anyway, cut through the make a short story. So I go out to the mound to take Dickey out. He's shocked. He should have, man. I think everybody.
Okay, it was the fifth inning. I think it's like he had four.
It was like an out or 2 outs in the fourth. Yeah.
Yeah, it was either 1 or 2 outs in the inning, and Chu. I forget his first. Was it Hinsu?
Yeah, he was coming up. but
no, he just got a knock. It was his second hit of the day, and he had hit the only 2 balls hard the entire game.
Well, it doesn't matter. Did you not see? Did you not watch that knuckleball over the years? 1 inning it's good, then 1 inning made leave, man. It turns in as a BP pitch. Sorry, and the ball flies in Texas. So anyway, I go out to the mound. Those that are listening. And I'm sitting there, and Arezzi's looking at me, and I'm going, I was debating. It wasn't an easy thing to do, right? And I get out there, and you go, this is bullshit. I'm going, if I could have choked you, man, I wasn't on national TV, I would have grabbed you. We had longer hair back then. So anyway, he comes out, Dave comes in and gets out of here, right? And we won the game, by the way. That's all that matters. So we go to the dugout, the inning's over, and you walk by, and that's one thing I loved about you. And we had that kind of relationship. You told me how you felt. I got no problem, but I'm gonna tell you how I feel too. So you came by, and we're going out, and you walked up the thing, and I went up. We talked a couple things. So anyway, the beauty of the story is the following year where we're playing a game, right? And he was pitching, right? And the knuckleball, in all fairness to him, it's tough. You can't control that. You don't know what's coming and going.
Yeah,
we get a nice little lead, and a couple of homers. Boom! Now we're tied or trailing, right? And so you come in the dugout, you're pissing and moaning about something about blowing a lead or something. And I heard it. You sit down. I walked over. I go, hey, would you repeat? What did you just say? And I said, repeat it one more time. You told me about, and I said, oh, really? You remember? What was it? 12 months ago in that freaking playoff game? That was my argument. You tell me what a dumbass I was and blah blah. so anyway,
Cito, Gaston, how would you describe your style as a manager? Of course, Gibby, always known as a player's manager, but not afraid to get in your grill if necessary and warranted. Describe over the course of your managerial career, your style.
Well, I had the same style as Gibby, but I think one time my style was to get the guys in the office and get in their face.
Yeah, he was smarter.
But I know sometimes it gets heated out there, and you have to do what you have to do. I let guys know that, you know what, I'm gonna let you play. I'm behind you all the way, and I'm a manager. I'm a player's manager. But when you go out there, you don't play properly, or you don't want to play, or you don't want to execute. Then when the game's over, I want you in my office, and I'll tell you what, I'll challenge you to a fight. If you want to fight, I'm right here. I'm standing right here.
You guys could have been a good tag team with each other.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything Gibby. I seen Gibby do. He's right on. He's right on.
Hey, Cito's much bigger than me, man. Them dudes working mess with him. They tried to get me on some little pints I do.
Well, yeah, I'm talking to these two legends, right? Really, I mean, both of you two-time managers of the Blue Jays. Cito, you replaced Gibby as manager of the Jays in June of 2008. Hirings and firings are part of the game. You both know that. Both of you are so highly thought of and legends in Blue Jays baseball. A question for both of you. Tell us what you most respect about each other.
I respect.
I'm going
to
go first, man.
Go ahead, Gibbon. You go ahead.
It's never going to end. Hey, first off, the first time I met Cito, he'd come down to spring training. It was, his guest instructor. He'd come down for about a week. And that's where I met him. I thought, hey, I always look for the character in guys. You want them around. It's like, he's just a good guy. The players gravitate towards him and all that. And then I just watch how he function with, like I said, function with our players. And I always try to watch the guys that had success, right? Cito's won 2 back to back. How many guys can actually say that? The guys that have had success in this business, how do they act? We all have different personalities, no doubt about it. But the way Cito carried himself, the guys, they listened, they respected him. And so that was number one. And then, just hear when I was in Toronto and just hearing the stories about him and things like that, and how he treated me coming back, because that's never easy. Come to spring training, you're a manager, ex-manager, and you got a new manager. That's not always easy at first until you get to know the guy, those kind of things. And have tremendous respect for his playing career and his managing career, but more importantly, just a good guy that you like having around. And to me, that's the most important thing.
Gibby, those are very kind words. Thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
And you know what, Gibby, I feel the same way about you. Is that I see how calm you are, even though people don't know that sometimes. You're pretty laid back, and you, as I said, you're a players manager, and also when you need to get in somebody's face, you get in their face. And you only do that when you need to. It's not everyday thing just to show people that you're tough or whatever. And I see the way you treat your players, the way they play for you. And you know what? I have to say this, that when I was coming to spring training during that time when you were managing, I should have kept that gig. That was a pretty good gig. I come up when I wanted to. I called and tell Jeff Ross, let Gibby know I'm coming in. That was a pretty good gig. I come in once a week and got paid the whole year round. So that was pretty good gig right there. So that was that. But the other part I seen in you that you care about the game. You really care about the game, and you care about people. And you know what? If they don't play, you let them know that you got to do better. You got to do better. And you know what? You go back and think when you got first fired, I took over the job. And then when you got hired again, I was in Hawaii and I gave you a call and congratulated you again. I have always felt like you're a friend of mine. I have never felt like, and I hope you feel the same way.
Oh, yeah.
We wouldn't income. Hey, we didn't fire each other. They fired us. So,
exactly. Hey, we got hired Cito's second time, right? And I could never understand why, because I didn't have the hardware. When you got hired the second time, I understand he's got 2 championships. So I told Alex Anthopoulos that I said, you're trying to rehire me. You're gonna get crucified for crying out loud. I got on for it.
Well,
glad he did that.
Yeah, you did. You guys went on and got into the playoffs a couple of years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, I tell you this, for Batista's induction to the Hall of Excellence. Hey, Gibby went out before I did on the field, and I went out behind Gibby, and you couldn't tell the difference in the applause for either one of us. It was the same. So they love you. They love you here too, Gibby.
Jerry Howarth.
John was very good. What I really appreciated about him was the easy rapport he had with his team, and yet he could be firm when he had to be too. But the players were very comfortable around him. And one thing I always look for, John, in a manager was how do they delegate authority? And John was very good at delegating authority to all of his coaches and then letting his players play and his pitchers pitch. And they never had to look over their shoulders. They knew that John had their back. And that made it very easy for me day in and day out to see that.
Alex Anthopoulos.
And there's times where GM wants to do something the manager's not a fan of, or manager wants to do something GM's not a fan of. It's a partnership. It really is. If you don't view it as a partnership, it isn't going to work, no matter what. But what I appreciated was I knew the clubhouse was taken care of. It was never going to be drama. There was never going to be issues. He had his finger on the pulse. He had the respect of the players. They weren't going to, go afoul of him. And also, there's a lot of things that he took care of behind closed doors that the media would never know about, right? Closed door meetings, this and that. I never needed to go check and say, oh, did you bring so-and-so in? Did you just talk to this guy? It was already done. He was already 10 steps ahead of it. He knew when to pull guys in. He knew when he had to I don't want to say make a scene, but I thought his instincts and his feel were very good, that if he had to do something on the bench in front of the cameras because the player put him in that position to do it, he had the instincts to do it. He wasn't afraid to do it. And then he also knew when the time was to do it behind closed doors in the office. And a lot of guys don't have that. They don't have the confidence. They're not sure. And the players can smell that and see through that in a minute. And look, beyond that, I thought he managed the bullpen really well. And I remember anytime if someone wanted to criticize, I'd always tell them, your job is to win the game. You won the game. I don't care about what this guy's opinion is, that guy's opinion, and get the job done. This is a results-oriented. I think it's Winston Churchill as the quote. No matter how beautiful the process, you should consider the results. And I'm into everything else that looks great, but it's a results-oriented business. And at the end of the day, you got to get it done and have the respect of the players. And even when we hired him a second time, and I knew it would be a controversial hire just because you're coming off a bad year and so on, I called some of his former players and poked around on it. And, they all raved about him, all of them. And I didn't just pick a position player. Well, I went all angles, reliever, starter, position player. Everybody came back the same way. And look, it's like Gibby said, sometimes you don't have the right roster, this and that. Change was made when it was made, but he was always good, and he just didn't have the roster at times, or the division was tough, really tough back then. And he just needed another opportunity, but it wasn't because it was giving him a chance. It was because he was good, and there's a lot of examples, Joe Torre, Terry Francona, that the first time maybe didn't go as well as it needed to go. The next time around, you see what they really could do. And those guys, some of them, obviously Torre's in the Hall of Fame, and I think Terry Francona is going to end up being there. So
are you saying
I think there's just so much that goes into it. Yeah, I think you're going to fall a little short. But
Devin Travis. So tell us what it was like to be a player working with John as the skipper, and also that personal relationship that you have developed with him over the years.
Yeah, it's been crazy. I got traded to Toronto, like you said, in the off season of 2014, leading into 2015, and I was a 23-year-old kid who was just traded north of the border. I did not even have a passport when I first got traded. I'll never forget Alex Anthopoulos saying, "Hey, you got a passport, right?" And I'm like, I don't even know how to get a passport. So, anyways, that's how it started. And I just think about my first spring training and how nervous I was to walk in that locker room full of personality. You got Jose Bautista, you got Jose Reyes, you got Edwin Encarnacion, you got Russell Martin, you got guys everywhere. And then, there's this little guy that's probably got no business being in that locker room, trying to fit in. And I think as a player and as someone that can look back on my career, the head guy in that locker room is your manager, because he's the person who has the ability to set the tone and set the personality of the team. And I think Gibby, who is his most special trait, is he's himself. There's coaches who have to try to be different people to manage certain guys. Gibby is Gibby every single day. Win, loss, he walks through the locker room, he talks smack going by. He just makes you feel like you belong. And I think that's the thing that I feel the most grateful for Gibby, was every single day, from the first day I was number 68 or 74 in spring training. He made me feel like I belonged. And that's a big part of fitting into a team as a young guy.
Mr. Bo Bichette.
I do remember one thing pretty vividly. I played, so the home run he's talking about was my second spring training game. The first one he didn't start me, but
that's why I got fired, man. I wasn't very smart. There it is.
No, I get it. But no, I capped the ball to the pitcher. And obviously, I prided myself playing hard, but of course my first spring training game, I'm gonna run as hard as I can no matter what I hit, so hit a little cap to the pitcher, and I took off, went to first base. And I get it, it's baseball, I'm not gonna hit a homer every time, but I wanted to hit a homer. And so I'm coming back to the dugout, and I'm kind of mad, and Gibby just told me, "Hey man, way to run." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Like, okay, I did something, and it's not all about the performance and the result, is someone saw something, and I appreciated that.
This was quite a story back then. I'd like to just ask you both your remembrances of that story. And, obviously you guys are here today. Josh, you're writing the forward for Gibby's new book coming out. So you got a great chemistry, great friendship. But back then, on that day in August, things got heated. So why don't you guys go talk about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think to kind of to sum up what Gibby was saying earlier with me, because I felt as a leader of the team and as a player who genuinely cared,
no doubt,
put his heart and soul into every game and wanted to win every single game, that there were definitely times to where, and this is what I appreciated about Gibby, is I could say what I felt to Gibby, and Gibby would be like, all right, yeah, well, I was thinking this, and I'd be like, all right, well, look, cool, like as long as we're on the same game plan here, so I know what I'm fighting for. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes, both of us are rednecks down at heart, so we're gonna. There could be a little red ass in there,
or
between
country
both
boys.
of us.
Country boys, anyway.
Yeah, country boys, whatever you want to say, and as to where we could, get the red ass at times, and I'd say stuff to Gibby, and for the most part, Gibby would just brush me off, and he'd say, "Hey, come back here, have a beer." And so after the game, we'd go and talk, and we would, let cooler heads prevail at times, but Gibby always knew that I cared, and I think that's genuinely, and I knew that he cared, and I knew he cared about me. So we could have that sometimes banter between each other as a player manager. And as Gibby said, I've heard him say something, other times that, he was kind of a father figure for me, which, that was true in some cases. But that day in New York, I want to say it was our third game in about our 24 hours. The day before, we had a doubleheader, and I was at the field from like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the morning the next day, because we had 2 or 3 rain delays in that game, and we were up like 6 games in the division going into, I think it was September, into August, early September. And the Yankees guys over there, like they're sitting their guys, and they're
Babe Ruth would have played.
Guys.
Babe Ruth would have played.
And I come to the lineup the next day, and I was like, damn, I'm like, we literally are playing, and I think we went extra innings the second game, like 12 innings. So it was 21 innings. It was 21 innings in one day, and the next day we had like a 12:30 start. And I'm like, I'm just gassed at the time. And Gibby's got me in the lineup, and I'm, I wasn't very pleasant to begin the day with. I had probably about 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and I get first at bat, CC's blows like 89 past me. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? And Gibby kind of hears me under my breath. He's like, what'd you say? And I'm like, I don't even know why the hell you put me in the lineup today. I got nothing. He's like, oh, you never know. I've seen you had nothing before and you go deep. And I'm like, yeah, I got nothing in the tank. And he's like, come on, get it together. I'm like, all right. So second at bat, he blows me away again with like 88. And I come into the dugout, and I didn't throw my bat. I hit it up against the rail where Gibby was standing. And Gibby got the ass at me, and he comes down. He's like, hey, was that directed towards me? I'm like, no, Gibby, I just got my doors blown off for the second time. I'm on like 4 hours of sleep right now. Give me a break. And he looks at me, and I didn't say those words. That's what I was feeling. I probably said something where I popped off. And then that's when Gibby
guaranteed.
got. Yeah, I said something that I popped off to him, and I didn't back down, and Gibby sure in the hell wasn't backing down. And I just remember I remember Totally first coming over there and trying to stop me. I'm like, Totally, get the hell out of my face. and then Tulo came over and grabbed me up. He's like, hey, this is New York. You don't need to do that. And I'm like,
Wow.
all right, yep, all right. Just because, it was a wrong day for me and probably a wrong day for Gibby as well. And
They're always a wrong day for me.
Well, yeah, things get heated of the moment. Obviously, your description of all the no sleep and the innings played and all of that pressure. But you had some interesting comments after that situation took place that I think we got a sound bite of that we're going to play. But yeah, let's. You had an interesting way of describing why that happened and what happened.
I just come back to the dugout and hit my bat against the thing, and Gibby asked me what kind of cologne I was wearing, and I said it's this new cologne called Tom Ford. I just got it. He's like, really? Oh, so he kind of got pretty close to me, and I guess got a good whiff of it. And I was like, hey man, back up. So I was like, I'll give you some after the game. So then we separated.
That wraps up this special Gabbing with Gibby. Next week, we'll feature more segments highlighting some other great guests and memories from the Gibby Show. And now, inspired by our friends at Miller Lite, it's time to toast someone who got the announcement of a lifetime this past week. This past Sunday, Major League Baseball announced the induction of a contemporary era inductee into the Baseball Hall of Fame. The inductee in this special vote was defined as someone whose greatest impact came from 1980 to the present day. An 8-member ballot featured former Jays manager Cito Gaston, plus Lou Piniella, umpires Joe West and Joe Montague, and executives Hank Peters and Bill White. Election to the Hall required 75% of the votes from at least 12 of the 16 committee members. And the person who was inducted, with his gray hair and mustache, known for his crusty demeanor and his penchant for smoking cigarettes during games, Jim Leyland, looked the part of a true baseball skipper, but he was also a winner, racking up the 18th highest win total in MLB history, 8 postseason appearances, 3 league pennants, a World Series championship with the 1997 Marlins, and 3 Manager of the Year honors. Now Leyland, one of the game's more beloved and respected leaders, will have his image on a National Baseball Hall of Fame plaque next summer. For his induction, this week's toast goes to Jim Leyland. And we also have to give a shout out to Cito. Cito winning 2 World Series in a row. He should be on that ballot next year. So hopefully at this time next year, everyone could welcome Cito into the Hall of Fame as well. But congratulations, Jim Leyland, who was the only person selected by this executive committee.
Corner booths, sticky floors, weekdays that feel like weekends. You never forget the way some things taste. Miller Lite, great taste, 90 calories. Tastes like Miller time.
That'll wrap up this edition of the Gibby Show. I want to thank our executive producer, Mark Milliere, and thanks to our creative director, Chris Sabunia. You can find me at Twitter, at John Arezzi, also on Instagram as well. And if you're a fan of pro wrestling, check out my 2 other podcasts, John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight and Memories from Madison Square Garden, available wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, or on YouTube. For John Gibbons, this is John Arezzi. Remember, we'll be back for the rest of the month with new shows covering all the breaking news surrounding the Blue Jays with some very special guests. Thank you for listening to The Gibby Show, and we'll talk more baseball with you right here next week.